can't believe it, guys. It's been a year since I made my first AFL tipping video 6 months ago. It feels like as if it was yesterday. Wow, time flies by fast. Anyway, it's round 23 already. Yeah, what am I going to do for the next 6 months after the grand final? It's going to be boring. Okay. Okay. But to start off the round, we head to Adelaide Oval on a Friday night. Port Adelaide versus Essendon. Jeez, that's a huge match. Because if Port Adelaide lose this, boom, they're out of finals. And even if they win this match, they are not guaranteed to play in finals. They need to rely on a miracle from Gold Coast to play the way they did in round 18 if Port Adelaide are going to make finals. But, despite the fact I think Port Adelaide will give its best, I do think Essendon, the way they have been playing recently, will win. Port Adelaide, they're not looking all that good, really. They're not looking good. Essendon, complete opposite. I know they lost last week, but that's to Richmond. So, I'm tipping Essendon by 3 points, though. But, Port Adelaide, sorry, your season's over. Saturday afternoon, Geelong versus Gold Coast at GMHBA Stadium. Well, if Essendon win, then Geelong don't really have to play for anything. But if they lose, Essendon, and Port Adelaide win, Geelong must defeat Gold Coast to win. And, well, considering how bad Gold Coast have been playing, bar last week, because they had a pretty good shot trying to beat Brisbane, but still, I'm tipping Geelong after the way they beat Fremantle by 133 points last week. So, Geelong it is. At the MCG also on a Saturday afternoon, Hawthorn versus Richmond versus Western Bulldogs, sorry. Richmond obviously still unbeaten at the MCG since round 13 last year. So really, Richmond to continue that streak. Saturday twilight at, where is it actually? Oh yeah, it's not a Saturday twilight, it's another Saturday afternoon match. That's why I got confused. Because it's a rare one at Optus Stadium, Fremantle versus Collingwood. Collingwood, they want to consolidate their top 2 spots, so I think they will win on Saturday afternoon. Fremantle came off a 133-point loss. I don't think they're going to win. So Collingwood is. Saturday night at Etihad Stadium, Carlton versus Adelaide. Adelaide, well, they've basically won 3 out of the last 4... No, that doesn't seem right. They're aiming to win 3 out of their last 4 games, sorry. Carlton's still on the bottom of the ladder. You just expect Adelaide to defeat Carlton. Because Carlton's still on the bottom. Adelaide, well, the season's over, but... yeah. They're better than Carlton. And then we head to an extremely big Saturday night match, which in my opinion should have been a Friday night match. AFL, you're stupid. Really, that Port Adelaide match should have been the Saturday night match instead. But, instead, Saturday night footy, Sydney versus Hawthorn at the SCG. Whoever wins this, top 4. Whoever loses this, well, you're going to have to try and enter the grand final the hard way. So, I'm going to be tipping Sydney because it's at the SCG. 1. Buddy Franklin, well, he's been playing he's in his best form. And who's to say that James Frawley, or whatever his name is even going to play this week for Hawthorn? So, that's 1. 2, Sydney, well, since their loss to Essendon, they have been bombing it out. I mean, and especially the way they played against the Giants last week, and Melbourne the week before, and Collingwood the week before that, you'd expect Sydney to pull something off. Hawthorn, they look shaky against St Kilda, for God's sake. So, Sydney will book in an unlikely top 4 spot. Well, unlikely as of round 19, that is. Because I said they were not going to make finals, but they proved me wrong. Okay. Sunday, early afternoon at the Gabba, which should have either been on Saturday twilight or Sunday twilight, for God's sake. Don't know what the AFL had in their minds. But anyway, that's what they scheduled. But if I was the AFL, I would have actually put Brisbane on the West Coast on the Saturday twilight, or Sunday twilight, either way. And it's especially hurtful for West Coast viewers, West Australian viewers, because they have to watch that game early in the morning, and it's not even delayed. So worst time slot possible. But West Coast, they will want to defeat Brisbane, because if they lose, and especially considering that there are a lot of other teams that they're competing their top 2 spot with, namely Hawthorn, Collingwood, and more unlikely Sydney. Well, West Coast, they're gonna want to win to play 2 home finals and to give themselves the best chance they can to fast track to the prelims. So I think West Coast will win. Brisbane, I'm not really convinced they'll defeat a side like West Coast. Even the way they played last week, refer to West Coast by the way. So yeah, tipping West Coast. Sunday afternoon at the MCG, Melbourne versus GWS. I'm tipping Melbourne, especially after the way they played against West Coast last week and the way GWS played against Sydney last week. You would I was pretty impressed with Melbourne, actually. I know I wasn't happy that they won, but I think you know why. But I'm going to admit, on a non-biased night, they were impressive. So, hey, I'm tipping Melbourne. And on a Sunday twilight, not the type of climax like it was last year, but North Melbourne versus St Kilda. I'm going to be tipping North Melbourne. Higher, purely because they're higher on the ladder compared to St Kilda. I don't think there's nothing much else to say about this. So, to recap my tips for the final round of the home and away season, I am tipping Essendon, Geelong, Richmond, Collingwood, Adelaide, Sydney, West Coast, Melbourne, and North Melbourne. Well, hope that helps you with your tipping, and I'll see you next week. Bye.